chapter 4, 5, and 6, the gift of money, the gift of friendship, and the gift of learning. So that Jason learned these three important life lessons on money, friendship, and learning. So that we concluded, and how just on the gift of money, just how just he learned that the real value of money, how it affects the people, and he himself spent $300 of his own money beyond the allocated amount, and he helped many people's how they when they need the money. So that way he learned that how just this money can help the needy peoples. And on the gift of friends, so he that the Red Steven shares his story with Mr. Hamilton, that how he donated his own kidney to share Red's life, uh, and that shows the true friendship when he was not getting kidney all over any place from anyone. So then the Mr. Hamilton donated his own kidney to save life of Mr. Red. That way he learned the how the friendship really matters. And another story that the Cascadewell story, that how the both help each other to develop the brand of each other, that they branded each other and they grow their business. That way their friendship work. So each other they branded and then they grow their own business. And the another story that the learning. So Mr. Hamilton and Miss Hastings visited South America village where they worked in a where Jason worked in a library for a month, and there he come to know that peoples were coming there just to learn and read the books from very remote places, that that give him that the desire and hunger for education is the key to real learning. So this way these three gifts, money, friendship, and learning, are very much fundamental to a meaningful life. And this way Jason's character was gradually improving with these experiences. So now we will cover today the seventh chapter. So I will start reading, then I will hand over. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
So now the seventh chapter, the gift of problems. Problems can only be avoided by exercising good judgment. Good judgment can only be gained by experiencing life's problem. I will admit to having a sense of anticipation the following Mondays as I contemplated the possible direction of the next act in Jason Stevens' life drama. I marveled at how my oldest and dearest friend, Red Stevens, could reach out from beyond the grave to impact a young life. At the appointed hour, Miss Hastings ushered Jason into the conference room and summoned me. How monthly encounter with destiny. Jason seemed to be more mature and confident than he had been just 4 short months earlier. He actually greeted both Miss Hastings and me as we begin the next phase of our odyssey. The image of Red Stevens materialized on the large screen. He gave Jason his customary congratulatory salute for passing the gift of learning milestone. Red began in the earnest. Jason, life is full of many contradictions. In fact, the longer you live, the more the reality of life will seem like one great paradox. But if you live long enough and search hard enough, you will find a miraculous order to the confusion. All of the lessons I am trying to teach you as a part of the ultimate gift I am giving you through my will are generally learned as people go through their lives facing struggles and problems. Any challenge that doesn't defeat us ultimately strengthens us. One of the great errors in my life was sheltering so many people, including you, from life's problem out of a misguided sense of concern for your well-being. I am actually took away your ability to handle life's problem by removing them from your environment. Unfortunately, human beings cannot live in a vacuum forever. A bird must struggle in order to emerge from the egg cell. A well meaning person might crack open the egg, releasing the baby bird. The person might walk away feeling as though he has done the bird a wonderful service when, in fact, he has left the bird in a weakened condition and unable to deal with its environment. Instead of helping the bird, the person in fact destroyed it. It is only a matter of time until something in the bird's environment attacks it, and the bird has no ability to deal with whatever would be manageable problem. If we are not allowed to deal with small problems, we will be destroyed by slightly larger ones. When we come to understand this fact, we live our lives not avoiding problems, but welcoming them as challenges that will strengthen us so that we can be victorious in the future. Red Steven paused and stared directly into the camera in a way that let us all know his conviction was born through a life of experiences in dealing with the problems. Red continued, Jason, I cannot turn back the clock and allow you to go deal with each of the problems in the past that I eliminated from your life when I should have given you the opportunity to deal with them yourself. If I could take us both back in time, I wouldn't, but now I am left with trying to teach you the value of problems, struggles, and obstacles. Since you have not had any experience in this area, you will have to learn quickly. There are problems heading your way that you are not prepared for. During the next 30 days, you will begin the preparations. This month, I want you to go out and find people with problems in the each stage of life. I want you to find a child, a young adult, a full grown adult, and an older person, each of whom is experiencing a profound problem. Not only are you to find these four individuals, but you must be able to describe to Mr. Hamilton the benefit or the lesson that is derived from each specific situation. When we can learn from own problems, we we begin to deal with the life. When we can learn from others problem people's problem, we begin to master life. I wish you well, and I hope to talk with you again next month. Even though the video has ended, Jason continued staring at the blank screen. He rose slowly and walked towards the door. As he opened it, he paused and turned back towards Miss Hastings and me and said, I will do my best and call you later. Then he closed the door behind him. Miss Hastings turned to me and said, the process seemed to be beginning to work. I am detecting a shift in his attitude. What do you think? I hope you are right. I responded because I have a feeling the road gets steeper the further we go. Once again, I found myself waiting for Jason's call, hoping he was faring well. I felt the same way I did the first day. I sent my son off to kindergarten. With 3 days left in the month, Jason finally called and set up an appointment with Miss Hastings for the following morning. Miss Hastings told me He had sounded very worried and unsure of himself. All I could do was hope for the best. The following morning, at the appointed hour, Miss Hastings ushered Jason into my office, got him seated, and pulled up a chair for herself. Jason sat silently, and as I looked at him, I had to admit he did seem very quiet and bit apprehensive. Finally, I said, "Well, Jason, it's good to see you again. I assume you have a report on your progress." Jason glanced up at me and said, "I think I do." He stared down at his hands, which were folded in his lap, and after a long pause, he slowly began. "Well, I know I had to find people with problems from the four age group. So I started by looking for a child. Almost after almost 2 weeks, during which I am unable to find anything, I was so frustrated. One afternoon, I just went for a walk in the park. I was feeling sorry for myself and considering that after all this work, I was going to lose my inheritance. Whatever this ultimate gift is that my Uncle Red has for me. Finally, I sat at the end of the bench and I noticed at the other end of the bench there was a young woman watching a little girl playing on the swing. The woman told me she thought the little girl was really amazing, and in my depressed condition, I was not as kind with her as I should have been because I told her that I didn't see anything amazing about her 6 or 7 year old daughter playing on a swing set. She told me, "First of all, I am not her mother, although I wish I were. Second, she is probably the most amazing person I have ever seen in my life. I am a volunteer at St. Catherine's Hospital. I work in a program where we try to grant special wishes for terminal parties. Emily has a rare form of cancer. She has been through countless operations and has spent probably half her life in hospital dealing with great pain. When we told her that we could try to make a special wish of hers comes true, she said she would like a fun day in the park. We told her that many kids went to Disney World or ball games or the beach, but she just smiled and said, "That's very nice, but I would just like to have a fun day in the park." This woman went on to tell me that Emily had touched everyone in the hospital and made a real difference in everyone's life. About that time, Emily stopped swinging and slowly walked across the grass and sat between the two of us on the bench. She turned to me with a smile I will never forget and told me that her name was Emily and that this was her special day in the park. She asked me if this was my special day in the park too. I told her that I didn't think it was. She laughed and told me that I could share hers with her. So, Mr. Hamilton, I spent the rest of the day in the playground with Emily. I realized that she has more courage and joy in her little 7 year old body than any normal human being could possibly have. At the end of the day, she was very tired, and the young lady from the hospital had to take her away in a wheelchair. But before Emily left, she told me that when she got back to the hospital, she would talk to the nurses and see if they could arrange for me to have a special day in the park too. Jason paused and looked directly at me. He had a tear in his eye, and I must admit I was fighting to control my composure as well. Miss Hastings retrieved a box of tissues and said something about her seasonal allergies. We all sat in silence and thought about a young girl whose problem could affect us so profoundly. Finally, Jason cleared his throat, wiped his eyes, and continued. Later this week, I found a middle aged man walking down the sidewalk in front of my house. He spotted me getting into my car, so he smiled and walked directly over me. He stuck out his hand and told me his name was Bill Johnson and that my car was one of the most beautiful cars he had ever seen. He told me that he was in the neighborhood doing odd jobs for people and that it would be a privilege to wash a car like mine. I asked him why he was out doing odd jobs, and he told me that through a series of corporate cutbacks, both he and his wife had lost their jobs and that they had three young children at home. Both he and his wife were doing anything they could make ends meet. Apparently, they had gone through their savings and they were making it just day to day on what they could pick up doing these jobs. I asked him what would happen if he didn't get enough money. He just smiled and told me that there was always enough and that the problem has created some interesting situation for their family. They were spending more time together than they had before, and their children had learned the value of money and work. He chuckled as he recounted an incident in the previous week when they had no food other than a little oatmeal. He said he was just about to give up when he heard his wife explaining to their children that many of the pioneers in the Old West went for days at a time eating nothing but oatmeal. He told me that their two youngest boys would probably want to eat only oatmeal from now on, no matter how much money they ever had. Jason paused for several moments, searching for the right words, and then he continued. He went on to tell me about all the wonderful things that he and his wife and family were learning and doing together. He washed my car and paid him what he asked. I tried to give him more, but he wouldn't take it. Before he left, I told him that I was sorry for his situation. He just laughed that amazing laugh of his and told me that he felt like he was the luckiest man on the earth, that in the whole world he couldn't think of anyone he would want to trade place with. Jason seemed deep in the thought and finally said, "You know what's funny, Mr. Hamilton?" As he was telling me that there was no one in the world he would trade places with, I was thinking to myself that in a lot of ways I would love to trade places with him. Miss Hastings supplied the three of us with glasses of water. Jason took a sip of his and resumed his report. The next day, I was driving past the entrance to a cemetery and I noticed the largest funeral procession and I had ever seen. I didn't think anything of it, and later that day I was passing back the same way. And out of curiosity, I thought I would drive through and ask one of the workers if it had been a celebrity or something. I drove through the cemetery, and the only person I could see was one very old man standing alone by a grave. Since the funeral procession I had seen had been several hours before, I assumed he was there on his own. I got out of my car and approached the old gentleman. When he heard me walking up behind him, he turned in my direction. I told him I was sorry for interrupting him, but that earlier in the day when I was driving by, I had seen the largest funeral procession I had ever witnessed. I told him I was just wondering if he might have known if it was a celebrity or superstar or something. He laughed softly and told me it had indeed been a celebrity and a superstar. He told me he knew that for a fact because he had lived with her for almost 60 years. Apparently, his wife had been a school teacher for 40 years and had influenced so many of her students that literally hundreds of them had come in from all parts of the country for her funeral. So he felt that mad. her a celebrity and a superstar both. I told him I was sorry for disturbing him on what must be the worst day of his life. He just laughed that quiet laugh again and told me that his life would be different, but that no one would live 60 years with his Dorothy could ever had a bad day. I was just standing here thanking Dorothy for everything she had done, and I had just promised her I wouldn't let her down. Jason took another sip of water and looked at both Miss Hastings and me and continued. That old man put his arm around my shoulder and we walked out of the cemetery together. As I was getting in my car, he told me that if there was ever anything he could do for me, that I was to call on him. I just sat in my car and watched him slowly drive away. Jason seemed to have concluded his report at that point. I waited, but he didn't continue. So I finally said, Jason, you found a child who is living through one of the most difficult problems and anyone could face with a joy that is that it is hard for me to understand. You found a middle-aged man and his family who are dealing with financial crisis while maintaining their sense of family and dignity. You found an older man who has taken a tragedy of death and turned it into a celebration of life. But Jason, you were to have also found a young person with problem. Jason cleared his throat and finally resumed speaking. Well, Mr. Hamilton, I know I was supposed to find a young person, and during the month I found several possible candidates. But I have to admit to you today that I couldn't find any young person who has learned as much as from their problem as I have from mine. I have lived my whole life in a selfish and self centered fashion. I never realized that real people have real problems. It always seemed that problems happen to people on the news and in the movies or something. But thanks to you and my uncle Red, I finally realized that I have been sheltered from problems and that I have never learned the wonderful lessons that the people I met this month are learning. I finally know that joy doesn't come from avoiding a problem or having someone else deals with it for you. Joy comes from overcoming a problem or simply learning to live with it while being joyful. Miss Hastings' allergies seemed to be acting up again at that moment as she was dabbing her eyes and nose. Finally, Jason asked, do you think it will be okay if I serve as one of the four people I was supposed to learn from this month? I assured Jason that it made both the spirit and the letter of Dred Stevens' finally will and testament. Jason glanced at his watch and said, if that's all I need to hurry to be at another appointment on time. I told him that would be fine, and as Miss Hastings was showing him to the door, she was asked, where are you rushing off to, Jason? He said, I have to meet a special friend in front of the swing set at the park. I will see you both tomorrow. Who want to go next? Sumanji, you?
Gigi, yes, yes. Chapter 8, The Gift of Family. Some people are born into wonderful families, others have to find or create them. Being a member of a family is a priceless privilege which costs nothing but love. The following day, Jason Stevens, Miss Hastings, and I gathered in the conference room for our monthly meeting, which was becoming a welcomed ritual for me. We sat in our established places. I was lost in thoughts of what the next month might bring as Miss Hastings started the videotape. Red Stevens greeted Jason warmly. Hello and congratulations on learning to value the gift of problems. That lesson will serve you well all the days of your life. You are now entering the sixth month of our 1 year remedial lessons in life. This month, you will begin to understand and respect the gift of family. Now, Jason, I realize that our family is about as messed up as a family can be, and I accept my full share of responsibility for that. However, the best or worst family situation can teach us a lesson. We either learn what we want, or unfortunately, we learn what we don't want in life from our families. Out of all the young men in the world, I have selected you. I have asked Mr. Hamilton to undertake this monumental task on my behalf for you because you are my great nephew. It is hard to understand why that means something, but I want you to know that it does. Families give us our roots, our heritage, our past. They also give us the springboard to our future. Nothing in this world is stronger than, scroll up, please, the bond that can be formed by a family. That is a bond of pure love and will withstand any pressure as long as the love is kept in the forefront. It is important for you to realize that families come in all shapes and sizes. Some very blessed people are able to live their whole lives as part of their families they are born into. Other people, like you, Jason, through a set of circumstances, are left without family other than in name. Those people have to go out and create family. I know this seems odd to you, but by the end of this month, I believe you will begin to understand what I am trying to tell you. This month, you, Mr. Hamilton, and Miss Hastings will be going on another trip. You will be meeting people who seem to have no family, and in this way, I am hoping you will learn the value that a family can provide. At the end of this month, I will ask you to demonstrate to Mr. Hamilton that you know and understand what the gift of family means. Mr. Hamilton has all the details for your trip, and assuming you accomplish this objective, I'll talk to you next month. Jason turned to me and said, I don't suppose you are going to tell me where we are going, what we are going to do, or whom we are going to meet, are you? I smiled and said, all in good time, young man. I have been instructed to tell you only what you need to know, and only when you need to know it. Miss Hastings interrupted, I believe we have made arrangements to pick you up at your home at 7:30 in the morning. We will be traveling several hours by automobile. Please be prepared to stay 1 month in a climate similar to the one which we are enjoying here in Boston. The next morning, Miss Hastings and I were comfortably installed in the back of a long black limousine driven by a very large gentleman selected especially for this mission. We pulled up in front of Jason's palatial home, which his great uncle had purchased for him via a trust fund. Our driver got out and went to the front door to collect Jason and his luggage. A few moments later, I saw the chauffeur easily carrying both of Jason's suitcases in one hand, leading Jason toward the car. Jason seemed a bit timid around the giant, and when the back door was opened to let Jason in, he appeared relieved to be in the company of Miss Hastings and me. Who in the world is that huge guy? Asked Jason. Miss Hastings replied cheerily, oh, you mean Nathan? He is a very nice young man selected especially for this trip. What does that mean? Jason asked. Miss Hastings just smiled and sipped on a cup of coffee. I turned and shook hands with Jason, greeting him, good morning, Jason. All will become clear at the appropriate time. For now, I suggest you sit back and relax, and I will tell you some of the details as we approach our destination. We enjoyed a beautiful drive out of Boston, across eastern Massachusetts, and into New Hampshire. As we turned north along the coast, I began to explain our trip to Jason. Before too long, we will be entering the state of Maine. We will travel several miles into a private forest and we will arrive at the Red Stevens home for boys, where you will be a substitute house parent for the next month. This will give the resident house parent an opportunity for a well deserved vacation and will give you an opportunity to get very well acquainted with 36 boys ranging in age from 6 to 16. Jason stared at me dubiously and said, I thought I was supposed to be learning about family. How in the world did that old man think I would learn about family from a bunch of orphans? That old man, as you so eloquently put it, steered this place over 30 years ago and has funded it ever since. I responded. He knew it inside and out, and I am sure the lesson he has planned for you can be found there. I just hope for your sake you can keep an open mind and find it. Well, it doesn't make any sense to me, Jason mumbled. Nevertheless, you are in for a unique month, to say the least. I said, as your great uncle made me the chairman of the board of this institution upon his death, Miss Hastings and I will spend the month working in the office, dealing with some of the donors and seeing to next year's budget. A few moments later, we drove off the main highway and onto Gravelside Road. We passed a rustic sign reading Red Stevens Home for Boys. Several moments later, our excellent driver Nathan guided the limousine to a stop in the middle of a courtyard surrounded by several buildings, including a dining commons, a dormitory, a classroom building, a gymnasium, and an administration building. Nathan got out of the limousine and opened the rear door for the three of us to get out. As he was getting the luggage out of the trunk, the door to the dormitory burst open, and an entire herd of young boys rushed to Nathan and began to mob him. He picked several of them up in the air, hugged several more, and slapped hands with still others. They were all calling his name and seemed to be terribly excited to see him. Finally, the enthusiastic greeting seemed to be over when Nathan said in a tone that would be hard to ignore, now, men, let's go into our dormitory and make sure everything is squared away because we have a new house parent here for the month. The boys responded immediately and rushed back into the dormitory. Nathan, somehow carrying all the luggage at once without seeming to be burdened down, led us into the dormitory. There were two rows of bunks lining each wall with lockers in between. Nathan dropped Jason's luggage onto the first bunk and said, Welcome home. This will be your palace for the next 30 days. Mr. Hamilton and Miss Hastings will be staying in the private apartments connected to the administration building. Nathan turned back to Jason and said, I would suggest you get unpacked and settled in. You have a lot of catching up to do. We all agreed to meet in the dining room in approximately 20 minutes. Nathan showed Miss Hastings and me to the two comfortable apartments adjoining the administration building. At the agreed upon time, we were all seated at the end of a long table in the dining room. Several dozen boys streamed in and sat at what appeared to be assigned places. They were talking excitedly and seemed to be curious about us as a group of outsiders gathered at the end of their table. After several moments, Nathan stood to his full height, which was indeed impressive. I estimated at least 6 feet 8 inches. At that point, the boys went silent, and Nathan spoke. Boys, as you know, your regular house parent, Brad, will be on vacation for the next month. Jason Stevens will be filling in for him. Nathan turned to Jason and said, "Stand up, Jason." Jason stood slowly, and a chorus of young boys called out in ragged unison, "Hi, Jason." Jason cleared his throat and stammered, "Hi." Jason sat back down quickly. Nathan resumed his address to the young boys. "Also, Mr. Hamilton and Miss Hastings will be with us for the next month as well. Some of you will remember them being here during our board of director visits with Mr. Stevens. They are very fine people that we are lucky to have here." Then Nathan bowed his head and gave thanks for the food. All of the boys followed suit and were polite and respectful throughout the meal. As we enjoyed our lunch, Jason asked Nathan, "Have you been here before?" Nathan laughed and responded, "You better believe it. The first time I came here, I was smaller than the smallest kid at this table. I was in and out of a few foster homes, but when I think of the good things from my childhood, they all happened here." "Do you work here now or something?" Jason asked. Nathan laughed, which sounded like a low rumble of thunder. "Yes and no," he said. "I guess people would think of my main job as being the tight end for the New England Patriots. But as soon as the season is over, I do whatever I can to be useful around here." Jason seemed shocked and said, "I'm sorry. I thought you were just a limo driver." "Well, today I am, and proud to do it," Nathan responded. "Tomorrow I may be the head maintenance man or disciplinarian here." One of the things we learned from Red Stevens when I was growing up is that we all do what needs to be done because it is the right thing to do. "Well, what am I supposed to do here?" Jason asked. "I believe Mr. Stevens' instructions through Mr. Hamilton were to let the boys help you figure out what you are supposed to do here," Nathan answered. "So if they are done eating, I'll take Mr. Hamilton and Miss Hastings to the administration building to discuss next year's budget and let your lessons begin." Nathan slapped Jason on the back with a giant hand and led Miss Hastings and me from the dining room building. As we were passing through the door, I heard Jason calling to us, "Look, I don't have a clue here. I have never been around any kids." The young boys around the table all erupted into laughter, which could which could be heard as we walked across the courtyard and into the administration building. For the next month, Miss Hastings and I did all of the legal and budgetary work required for the coming year. We did have several opportunities each day to look in on Jason, and Nathan told us he would keep us informed. For the first several days, Jason seemed like a stranger, but eventually he settled into his duties as a father, brother, teacher, and friend to three dozen boys. On the last day, as Nathan was loading our luggage into the limousine, each of the boys came out, one at a time, to tell Jason goodbye. Hugs were exchanged, a few tears were shed, and Jason received a number of gifts which would be considered exceedingly valuable to young boys. I noticed several oddly shaped rocks, a four-leaf clover, and an arrowhead, among other heartfelt offerings. As Nathan drove us out of the courtyard along the gravel driveway, Jason was turned in the seat, waving to the boys until they were out of sight. We sat in silence until we were well along the highway back to Boston. Finally, Jason spoke. You know what is amazing? Not one of those boys has a family, but each of them knew more about a family than I did. I think family is not as much about being related by blood as it is about relating through love. The limousine horn honked, and Nathan let out a blood-curdling yell, which I am sure serves him well on the football field. You finally got it, he shouted. I thought you were pretty useless when you got here, but I knew that if you were related to Red Stevens, we had a chance. You see, you come from a great family, and so do I. Chapter 9, The Gift of Laughter.
Let
Laughter
me
is
see.
okay,
So
okay, yeah.
just let me see how much long this is. We can, I think we can complete. I think we can
Okay,
continue.
okay. Yeah, sure. Chapter 9, The Gift of Laughter. Laughter is good medicine for the soul. Our world is desperately in need of more such medicine. When you become an octogenarian, you find yourself dealing with your memories and your mortality. I was sitting in my office thinking of all the wonderful memories I carried with me, and my mind drifted back to Red Stevens. I had just gotten out of law school and opened my office. The sign on the door read Hamilton and Associates. The Associates part was more of a wish than a reality, as I spent the majority of each day by myself. One day I heard the bell on the outer door ring. I knew that my part-time secretary had already left for the day, so I got up and rushed out to see who it was. There stood a formidable man I later learned was Red Stevens. He told me that he was going to be the biggest oil man and the biggest cattleman in Texas, and he was looking for a good lawyer. He said that he had called the best law school in America and learned that I had graduated first in my class the previous spring. He just smiled, that huge smile I came to know and love, and boomed. So I thought the best lawyer in the world and the best oilman and cattleman in the world ought to get together. It didn't seem to bother either of us that I was a lawyer, fresh out of law school with no clients, and he was an oilman and a cattleman without any oil or cattle. It began that simply and grew into a long time professional and personal relationship. My thoughts of Red were interrupted when Miss Hastings stuck her head into my office and said that Jason Stevens was waiting for us in the conference room. Red appeared on the video screen and said, well, Jason, you have made it through 6 months of this 12-month project. I want to remind you that you have come a long way, but you have a long way to go. And if at any point your attitude or conduct does not meet Mr. Hamilton's expectations, we will end this journey immediately, and you will not receive the ultimate gift, which is the bequest I have left to you in my will. This month, you are going to learn about the gift of laughter. The gift of laughter I want you to learn about is not a comedian in a nightclub or a funny movie. It is the ability to look at yourself, your problems, and life in general and just laugh. Many people live unhappy lives because they take things so too seriously. I hope You have learned in the last 6 months that there are things in life to be serious about and to treasure, but life without laughter is not worth living. This month, I want you to go out and find one example of a person who is experiencing difficulties or challenges in his or her life, but who maintains the ability to laugh. If a person can laugh in the face of adversity, that individual will be happy throughout life. At the end of the month, you will report to Mr. Hamilton and Miss Hastings about the individual you have found and what you have learned. And what you have learned from him or her about the gift of laughter. Red Stevens began laughing and said, "Someday, Jason, you will have to ask Ted to tell you about some of the laughable situations we got ourselves into the olden days." As Red continued laughing to himself, the screen went black. Jason asked, "What is he talking about, Mr. Hamilton?" I smiled and replied, "That would indeed be for another time and another place. But for now, young man, it is time for you to get serious about the gift of laughter." At that, Miss Hastings walked Jason out of the office. Our firm's private investigator, Rigi Turner, discreetly followed Jason throughout the month. Rigi reported that Jason seemed to be going about his normal routine and did not appear to be showing any outward signs of exploring the gift of laughter. On the last day of the month, Miss Hastings buzzed me to say that Jason had called and asked if he could stop by in afternoon. I told her that would be fine, and she let me know that Jason had informed her he would be bringing someone with him. At the appointed hour, Miss Hastings escorted Jason into my office along with another young man who was obviously blind. He wore dark glasses and carried a white cane. Miss Hastings seemed uncomfortable as she watched the blind man walk across the office, and I must admit to feeling a bit of apprehension myself. "Mr. Hamilton and Miss Hastings," Jason said, "I would like you to meet David Rees." Mr. Rees held his hand out and said, "Long time no see." It took me a moment to overcome my anxiety and to be able to enjoy his humor. I shook his hand and we all sat down. "I met David on a commuter train last week," Jason explained. "We talked during the train trip and several times since over the phone. He is simply the best example I can imagine of the gift of laughter." David Rees blurted out, "Yeah, David told me that you guys needed a few laughs around here, so he dragged me in." David turned his head to the right and said, "Boy, this is really a beautiful office." "Thank you," I said, and was about to tell him about my furnishings when I realized he had been pulling my leg. We all laughed. I asked Jason, "What was it about this young man that made you believe he had the gift of laughter when you first met him on the train?" David Rees cut in and answered, "It was my magazine trick, sir." I smiled and asked, "Okay, what is the magazine trick?" David Rees explained, "Some of the commuter trains are not as clean as they should be. So, whenever the seats are dusty, people often sit on magazines. Since I can't tell when they are clean and when they are not, I always sit on a magazine." While Jason and I were getting acquainted on the train, a gentleman behind me, as people often do when they are looking for something to read on the train, asked me if I was reading the magazine. At that point, Jason began laughing out loud and interrupted. Right after the guy asked David, "Are you reading the magazine?" David stood up, turned the page, sat back down, and said, "Yes, sir." but I will be done before long. When our laughter died down, I asked David how and when he developed the gift of laughter. He explained that he lost his sight early in life and had dealt with many struggles and challenges, not the least of which being people treating him poorly. Mr. Hamilton, sometimes in life, either you laugh or you cry, he said, and I prefer to laugh. I thought about David Rees and what a wonderful outlook he had on his life. His gift of laughter had not only benefited him, but everyone around him, including me. I told Jason that he had certainly fulfilled the assignment for this month. As Jason walked with David Rees out of the office, David stopped, turned, and said, Mr. Hamilton, I wanted to tell you before I left, I think that is a beautiful tie you have on. I was halfway through thanking him for the compliment when I realized he had done it to me again. He and Jason could be heard laughing all the way down the hall to the elevator. Miss Hastings was laughing softly as well. So, what are you laughing about? I finally asked her. Well, it is a nice tie, she replied. Yeah, the
Okay, so
chapter
we
is
can,
over.
yes. So today we have completed three chapters in the gift of problems, the gift of family, and the gift of laughter. So all these very interesting, and the way the storytelling that we are learning all these life lessons from this book. So I think we three people are here in the room. There's only I just want one thing that the gift of the problem. So okay, can we share any problem that has turned our lives something that turned into something good for the life? Just like I want to share that when earlier I was working in Odisha and I got transferred here. So when I transferred here, so I faced a lot of difficulties in the new job, and that I was thinking that about that this job will be difficult, and that my boss was really pushing me very hard, and the things were becoming very tough for me. So initially 6 7 months that I was not able to cope up and was not able to manage the things. But the one thing was in my mind that this difficult time will go away, and I will learn the new things. So during that difficult time and the problem time, I I keep motivating myself. So that gives me the boost to handle the situation and to overcome the problem that time. So that way that I learn how just we need to face the problem. We should not run away from that problem. So that I have the my personal experience with the problem. So if Sumanji and Rajesh, you have anything you want to share on any of these three lessons, the problems, the gift of family, and the gift of laughter.
Yes, Rajesh, first you want to share? Yes.
Suman, you may carry on. Okay.
Okay, you can. I need some time to focus on. In the meantime, you may share.
Yeah.
And one more thing, one more
See,
thing.
hmm.
Yeah, yeah, continue. Continue.
Carry on. Amit.
So one more thing that I want to share that on the family side, sometimes we live with our family, and we that take them for granted. Like, sometimes we deal with the with the external relations that we in our office we deal very sophisticatedly, and we sometimes with the family just we don't give that much of the importance, and we live with the family when it comes for loving the family members. So that that way that we have the family, we should take some small actions that we can appreciate our family whenever we spend time with the family. So that way will increase the bonding and love in the family members. So that one part also I want to share.
Yeah. Even I like the way the author has explained about that the entire things with the story way. What I missed in this particular book, the author would have gone too much deep with some more explanation or some more examples. If, example, today we read about the family. He nicely explained how he had started, how he went to the particular house, and how what he has experienced, and initially how he felt. He never lived with that kind of children. Then immediately he transferred to the last school. That means he completed all his schools and then he came out and he got a big love from everyone. What I expected, what was his experience in that family? What he come out, I think what he has faced with challenges, he overcome and solve some problems at the family. And some moments I was expecting that was missed. I think Dr. has not explained complete whatever he has gone through that. The preparations, everything has explained. But it's good thing he has touched upon what is very important, the small bits and pieces, but what is really important in every chapter he has explained. That's nice. I think I like that the family part is today, and then the laughter part also. Thank you.
Yes, yes, correct. So it's somehow the author basically is sharing only that how just the with the story he's telling that how just these things can give lessons to that Jason ki how he can learn. That way he's trying. So I think he's not covering all that particular that the family or that problem laughter every aspect, that these are itself is a great things that on the life. So if someone want to talk that, then many things can be written on these topics. So, but he just with the storytelling he just want how much that he can give the learning to Jason. That way he's trying to explain in my view, so that he's limiting his that part. He's just not getting into the all details that the how these family laughter and the problems that the friends money, that how all these things can basically a separate the non-fiction book can written on all these subjects without telling story. But he's just trying to just give lessons to Jason. That way he's in my view he's giving that aspect to Jason. That way he's covering that particular small portion on these topics.
Yeah, I also feel that generally, whatever he's telling, otherwise, we also have so many examples that are relatable. And just as we go through the story, many examples simultaneously are related in our minds. And he, through even beyond the grave, is impacting the life of a young man. That is really great. And the first chapter that was about problems, the problems that is, we until and unless we are not faced with problems, we don't become sound to handle the big problems that may come in life. He gave various examples of the eggshell. To if we try to break the eggshell soon, the bird will not be able to cope up with the other problem life challenges. We also do the same with our children. We try to help them, even when they can handle the things by their own, but we try to comfort them out of love and affection. But the lesson I have got is that we must try to give such an environment that in future they are able to cope up with the bigger challenges that in life they may face. And the other was gift of family. uh, Again, it is very the reality that what we call abhav, the lack, the person who feels the lack knows the value. Same was shown here. And the person who can be happy in spite of lot of challenges, that is the true laughter that I have learned from this chapter. Yes.
So correct, Sumanji. So that the first point now on the family side, we want to see that our son or daughter, that we want that they should not face any problem. We whenever we see them in any problem, we just we just also get or think that we want to avoid that they should not face any problem. But earlier when the if we see our childhood, I see my childhood, that we used to have faced many problems, and the our parents was not so much aware about the things. But now that we are living in a nuclear family away from our parents, so then we just want that our children should not face the problem. We avoid them, we don't want to push them into the problem. But when it will comes, when they will face the real world, they will go face the problems. So that time they may be lacking that ability to face those problems. So that the situation and the things are changing, so that way we can give, how I don't know how just we can give that environment, but this is currently the situation currently we have.
Yes, very true. And one more example of that little girl suffering from cancer, how she enjoyed the fun day in the park, that was also profound example. That we have so many blessings in our life, what we ignore. But there are so many bigger problems than what we feel as our problem.
Correct, correct. Okay, so this way I think we have completed 9 chapters of this book. So I think in 1 or 2 reading session this will complete.
Yeah, I think the uh, little wisdom is given through these
Mhm.
chapters, that is, and he has incorporated all of the fundamentals of a beautiful life.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good reading, good going. Good reading, Anil. Good book you have chosen for revisit the important things we should know about it. Sometimes we miss out the small things, but that is very important in our life, day-to-day life.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, such type
Yeah,
of readings make us more mindful to cherish the little blessings of our lives.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we call it for the day. Okay.
We can conclude.
Okay. Have you taken the notes, Anil?
Just I'm taking out that.
Okay. After taking notes, just you can give one message. I have taken notes. Then I
Okay.
can end the session.
Okay. Just okay. I just give you the
Yeah,
message.
yeah.
Okay.
Not message, just you can voice out.
Okay.
Done, I have
Okay.
taken. You can
Okay.
close the
Okay.
session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.